What it do, what it do, what it does, how y'all doing today? This week we are going to continue the story of Abraham. So one night God told Abraham that he would take care of Abraham and his family when he moved to a new land. And he was doing just that. God and Abraham are always talking to each other. I hope that Abraham had unlimited data. But one day God said to Abraham, I will give you a son. Then God told Abraham to go outside and look at the sky. Now, it doesn't stop there, but can you imagine if it did? If God was saying to Abraham, Abraham, I'm going to give you a son. Now go outside, look at the sky, and catch! And God just threw like a knuckleball of a baby down at Abraham. That'd be funny. But that's not what happened. God told Abraham to go outside and look up into the sky. And God said, count the stars if you can. You will have so many grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and people who will say that they are a part of your family. They will be as many as the stars in the sky. Now that sounds like a whole lot of tax deductions. Abraham wanted a family, and God promised him that he would have a big family. I want to have a big family too. I want to have like 8 to 15 kids. Oh yes! And I'm gonna drive them all around in a big old school bus, and on the side of the school bus is gonna say McCartney Mobile. But God promised Abraham that he would have a very big family. Keyword being promise, because Abraham believed God's promise. He completely trusted that God would give him a son. Now it didn't just happen right away. More years went by and Abraham and Sarah still didn't have a child. But through these years of waiting, Abraham and Sarah never forgot God's promise. And God kept his promise to Abraham. And Abraham and Sarah had a little baby boy. Now mind you, by the time they had this little baby boy, they weren't in their roaring 20s anymore. Alright, they were in their whispering 100s. Well, Abraham was 100 and Sarah was 90. And they named the little baby boy Isaac. And the name Isaac means laughter. Now they named him Isaac because after he was born, Sarah literally laughed out loud, LOL, because she was so happy that God had given her a child. She said, God has made me happy, and everyone who hears how God has kept his promise will rejoice and be happy with me. Now you can understand why she's so happy. Sarah was 90 years old. Most mamas ain't just popping out babies at 90 years old anymore. Isaac was a miracle. So as we heard earlier, God's got some big plans for Abraham. God had called Abraham to move to a new land. God had given Abraham a special son named Isaac. And God had given Abraham great promises about Isaac. Abraham was a very old man when Isaac was born, as we spoke about earlier. So he must have felt very happy to finally have Isaac. I would be happy too. Just think about it. I'm 100 years old and my son is 1 year old. We get to share the same diapers. And Abraham and Sarah loved Isaac so very much and they took great care of him. But one day, God came to Abraham and told him to do a hard thing. So God told Abraham to give Isaac as a sacrifice, which means that Isaac would have to die. Now if Isaac died, Abraham was going to be very sad. And if Isaac died, how could God's promises come true? But Abraham trusted God and he believed that God had a plan. And Abraham chose to obey God, even though it was very hard. So Abraham began to get things ready. He probably got his sharpest knife, sharpened it up. He probably got all the things to make a little altar for him. And he told Isaac, he said, son, today we're going to go on a hike. And we're going to give a sacrifice to God. Isaac understood Abraham. He said, okay, I know you want to go make a sacrifice to the Lord, but where's the lamb? And Abraham said, the Lord will give us what we need. Now I'm just saying, I never would have fallen into the same trap that Isaac did, alright? Because if my dad ever came up to me and he was like, son, today we're gonna go on a hike. And we're going to go up to a mountain and give a sacrifice to God. But don't worry, he'll show us what he wants to sacrifice. Wink, wink. I would immediately be suspicious. I would be like, hold up, wait a minute. We don't go on hikes. But Abraham listened to God and Abraham was ready to give Isaac as a sacrifice to God. But suddenly, a voice called to Abraham and it said, stop, don't hurt Isaac. and the voice was God's. Now, God had only wanted to test that Abraham loved and trusted him more than anything. So Abraham was extremely excited because he didn't have to sacrifice Isaac. And he saw a ram in the bushes nearby, and he sacrificed the ram instead of Isaac. And the ram was probably just as surprised as Isaac was. The ram woke up that morning and wanted to go on a little bit of a morning jog, so he's out there running. He gets his little leg stuck in a little bush to the side. He's stranded there for a couple hours, and then these two dudes come up the hill, and one of them looks like he's about to sacrifice the other. So in the ram's mind, he's like, oh snap, something's about to go down, and I got a front row seat to this movie. And then out of nowhere, plot twist, the other dude picks the man off the altar, goes over, picks up the ram, and sacrifices him instead. And the little ram's just thinking to himself the entire time, sweet baby Jesus, this is the best 3D movie I've ever seen. But the ram was needed as a sacrifice at the moment. So God blessed Abraham and gave him a big old family. And Abraham was glad that he had trusted God. I think the message for the story today is extremely important, especially for children and their fathers. It's hard for some people to believe that their dad would ever want to hurt them. But then it's extremely easy for other people to believe that their dad would want to hurt them. God gave us earthly fathers to prove to us that not even they can be perfect. There is only one perfect father that we all have, and he is God. And he is protecting and loving us every single second of every single day. A great verse to remember to go along with the message today is Isaiah 26:4. Trust in the Lord forever. The Lord is the rock, and the Lord will keep us safe forever. We have a Heavenly Father that loves us unconditionally for all of eternity. That is the best news that I have heard today, ladies and gentlemen. We've hit it again. A fantastical story with a fantastical message. And I hope that I get to see you all again next week. God bless you, and I love you.